All right, so we are now on to the final sort of category in this module, which is dependent sources. So up to this point, we've basically looked at independent sources and resistors. Those have been the components that we've seen. So we have a voltage source. We would give it some kind of a rating, let's say 3 volts, or we would have a current source and we would give that some kind of a rating, let's just say 10 milliamps, and we've had resistors. And so the sources that we've looked at thus far are independent of everything else. It doesn't matter what we connect to them. It doesn't matter what else is going on in the circuit. For the voltage source, the two nodes connected to the voltage source will have a 3-volt voltage difference, and the branch associated with the current source will have 10 milliamps, regardless of what else is happening in the circuit. And resistors are going to stay the same for us. But we're introducing a new type of source that's called a dependent source. And what that basically means is that instead of being an independent source, which has some voltage rating or a current rating, it is going to have a gain value. So let's just get right into this next slide. The first type of dependent source is called a voltage controlled. Go ahead and grab this. Voltage controlled source. And so there are two types. There are voltage controlled voltage sources, and there are voltage controlled current sources. Okay, it's actually really pretty easy. It might seem a little scary that we're introducing a new component, but I promise you it's pretty straightforward. So the voltage controlled voltage source, it looks just like a regular voltage source, just like this, except it has inputs, plus and a minus input. And instead of having a voltage rating, it has a gain value. So the gain is what we care about. And so similarly to the previous voltage source, this voltage source is also going to have some plus to minus value that tells me that my plus side is X amount of volts higher than my minus side. But it depends on the gain and on the inputs. So let's say I input 2 volts here and 1 volt here, and I have a gain value of 3, just for an example. Then my voltage source is going to be rated for the difference across this input, so 2 volts minus 1 volt, multiplied by my gain value, which is 3. So 2 volts minus 1 volt is 1, multiplied by 3. This voltage controlled source would have a 3-volt rating, which basically means that the plus terminal is going to be 3 volts higher than the minus terminal. So if I were to ground this terminal, then I would have 3 volts here. Okay, so that's how the voltage controlled voltage source works. Now let's look at the voltage controlled current source. I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. Let me go ahead and draw my voltage controlled current source. Looks just like a regular current source, except it has some inputs, a plus and a minus input, and it has a gain value. And again, it's going to have some current that's going to flow through it, but it's going to depend on the inputs, and it's going to depend on the gain, okay? And so let's say that I have 2 volts in and 1 volt in on the minus terminal, and my gain in this case is, let's just say 0.001 or 1. Oh, wow, I had an error there writing. That's why it's taking forever to undo that. Let's say it's 0.001 for my gain value, or 1 milli. Okay? Gain has no units. It's just a number, a multiplier, really. And so if I were to take my 2 volts minus 1 volt and multiply it by my gain of 0.001, I would get that the current flowing in my voltage controlled current source is equal to 1 times 0.001, or 1 milliamp. So then I would have 1 milliamp flowing out of my my voltage dependent or voltage controlled current source. Okay, so really all these are they're just your normal voltage source and current source, but instead of being independent in their values are dependent on the inputs that we connect to them and on the gain value that we assign to them. Okay, and in the next video, I'm going to go ahead and solve an example using a voltage controlled source.